A common question that I get asked by supplement brand owners is if the third-party certifications are worth the investment. While my answer differs depending on the brand's nuance, I always mention one prediction that could have market-bending potential. Now I'll get to that market bending potential a little bit later in this content, but first I want to initially set up the evolution of the problem within the supplement industry. So the age-old problem as a whole in the supplement industry is that the biggest resistance level to the continual growth of the supplement industry boils down to the consumer trust. It only takes you doing a few queries into the Google machine to realize that the mainstream media has propagated the fallacy that the supplement industry is unregulated and thus most of what they sell must be overpriced snake oil. While this couldn't be further from the truth, everybody knows that perception becomes reality. Until the start of last decade, the supplement industry really managed this problem through higher barriers of entry, and this was kind of all areas, be that manufacturing, marketing, and distribution. Prior to the start of the 2010s, supplement industry as a whole had less manufacturers, contract manufacturers, you had less brand creation, you had more expensive marketing, and you had only a small collection of retail partners that had any type of material sales in the category. These were a combination of gatekeeping methods that helped manage the bad actors in the industry. But if we progress through the 2010s, many of those market dynamics started to change. You had more contract manufacturers getting in business. That drove down the overall startup costs in terms of an inventory startup perspective. Marketing costs were lowered because of social media marketing and digital marketing, and internet retailers started to increase their market share. Thus, all of this kind of created a perfect storm that allowed for a much bigger amount of brand creation. That being said, kind of in the early to the start of the mid 2010s, you still had a large collection, the vast majority of the sales in the category sold through a small amount of still retail gatekeepers. These retail gatekeepers either had compliance hurdles or financial hurdles that needed to be overcome by these bad actors, thus limiting them or limiting overall industry exposure. These major retailers had an incentive and a liability exposure to keeping consumers safe. Now, as we progress past the mid 2010s, there was kind of a problem accelerator and kind of a mitigation, but the acceleration far outweighed, at least for most people's perception, the mitigation. There was a huge change in those market dynamics that I mentioned before. Almost all of that can stem to the rise of the internet. The internet has democratized business. And because of that, they've really stripped all gatekeepers away. Bad actors in the supplement industry did not need these retail gatekeepers anymore to create a meaningful level of business activity. They could simply attract consumers in a cost-effective way through social and digital marketing. A few clicks of their mouse could create this, plus create a direct-to-consumer website that they own, and in the shadows of the industry they can operate without needing those gatekeepers to validate them through financial means or through compliance means. Additionally, if they were going to sell on a third-party marketplace, a lot of those were being policed by algorithms, and because of the sheer amount of activity that happens on these marketplaces, there's still a chance that bad actors can get through. So while the internet provided a potential playground for these bad actors, it also created a massive amount of information dissemination that put the power in the consumer's hands. The problem is there's so much information at this point, consumers are overloaded and not getting the full power from all of this information being disseminated across the internet. So with the market dynamics changing, the internet basically stripping away the gatekeepers' influence on the market, what happened? When this kind of happens to gatekeepers, They don't just fade away into the sunset and just relinquish that power they originally had. If you think about some of these gatekeepers or market influencers and how things have changed for them, legacy supplement brands, they're upset at their loss of sales because of competing against some of these bad actors. You have some of these large contract manufacturers that are upset at small contract manufacturers servicing some of these bad actors at a low enough level that it's still an attractive entry point for them. And then ingredient suppliers, which I didn't really mention, they're kind of upset because their business model has now been complicated and there might be a devaluation in the industry if bad actors continue. So what's the solution for these gatekeepers? It is that they need to come together and work to get some of these internet marketplaces to provide additional hurdles. So most of today's digital sales of the category, if we exclude direct-to-consumer websites, happen through the Amazon and Walmart marketplace. The industry is living in a Walmazon world. They have the power in the industry because they have the customer bases that are coming on there to purchase a variety of different consumer products, thus making it more attractive in terms of a flywheel perspective for sellers to start selling more goods on those platforms, especially product categories that they deem attractive, which for the most part, nutritional supplements have a pretty hefty gross margin. Now, if you add in the current accelerant of something like COVID-19 really driving all the sales towards digital adoption, this gets to a point where gatekeepers start to fear that they are going to lose all influence and all power in the market. Now, while they might be losing market power and influence, they still have not lost their corporate power. So they're now utilizing that to get face time to share their fears to Walmazon. But they frame it in this kind of strategic game theory called Volunteer's Dilemma. These previous gatekeepers are calling on Walmazon to rein in bad and fleeting actors within the supplement industry. They would like the same hurdles to be in place that these large major retailers have for their in-store experience. But since they can't create the same financial hurdles, say, to stock 5,000 Walmart locations, they are asking these internet marketplaces to add compliance hurdles that are also costly to the brands. Because Walmazon marketplaces make money both as wholesalers and just as seller fees, there's still going to be a hesitation. Now, going back to the original kind of commentary around market bending potential for third-party supplement certifications is because a lot of these gatekeepers are looking to CVS as inspiration when they are talking to marketplaces, omni-channel retailers like Walmazon. CVS has arguably the most visible and comprehensive vetting system within the supplement category. Third-party supplement certifications are required to get on shelf and be merchandised within the in-store experience of CVS. And the success of this model has been looked at by other physical retailers and will likely be adopted within the near term, which takes us to some of these omni-channel retailers like Amazon and Walmart. What happens when they require your supplement brand to have a third-party supplement certification to be listed on their marketplace, let alone to be carried within their store? What this does is the proliferation of brand creation evaporates aggressively because the extra financial burden from that additional compliance hurdle that needs to be reached makes a lot of the unit economics of certain categories or certain entry points, maybe on the more economical or commoditization side of the industry, less attractive for these brands to sell on internet marketplaces. So what's the big deal? You might be asking, or you might be thinking to yourself, I would love to have less competition in the market. In my opinion, competition breeds innovation. When was the last time you saw a legacy supplement brand really creating waves through its market segmentation strategy, product development, customer experience, and a number of other important areas that today's hyper-growth supplement brands that were only started about 2 to 3 years ago are doing, which brings and elevates the rest of the industry up? When is the last time that you could point to a legacy sports nutrition or large market leader doing any of those things? They haven't. So while I agree that 10,000 different pre-workouts is definitely a number that's too high to serve the current needs of the market, by imposing a higher hurdle to get market entrance into a scale building digital marketplace like Walmazon, you might actually be creating a counter effect that happens within the market. What happens when the market decentralizes further and the bulk of the supplements are sold through direct-to-consumer websites owned by the brand? Do these gatekeepers then go towards payment processors or website platforms like Shopify to create different hurdles? Fact is, there's always going to be bad actors at some level within the system because there will always be a consumer market for sensationalized and oftentimes illicit products. So I just want to end this video with some final thoughts. This is definitely an extremely complex problem, and I've even commented on a few of my earlier content pieces around utilizing third-party supplement certifications and highlighting internet marketplaces as a potential way to clean things up, but it cannot be utilized as a standalone strategy. The industry must also look for the FDA to modernize and allocate more resources to the policing of the supplement industry. Now note, I did not say that the FDA should add on more regulations. I'm saying that they should simply enforce the ones that are presently on the books to a higher standard. Contract manufacturers should also start to take more onus on vetting bad actors through adding an incremental level of financial and/or compliance hurdles that isn't detrimental to market innovation, but serves as an additional layer towards those bad actors that maybe are just seeking profit taking by exposing consumer blind spots. And then finally, brands need to have a higher level of transparency to their products to be allowable for sale on market, thus increasing the legal risk for non-compliance. Again, overcoming this complex problem will not be easy, and it needs to be a balanced effort. I just hope the right gatekeepers and thought leaders are tasked to solve this problem without ulterior motives. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly, and if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.